Welcome to Lone Star Chronicles, From Legacies to New Frontiers. I'm your host, Brian Naples, inviting you to join me in exploring the histories and technologies that shaped our past and guide our future. Thank you for joining me on this epic journey. Stay tuned. All right. Well, Bill O'Neill, welcome to the program.
I am delighted to be here.
You were on the inaugural program of this podcast. How do you feel about that?
Oh man, that's great. I'm just line them up. Let's talk to them, whoever they are.
We're going to call it, by the way, the title I've coming up with for this is going to be Lone Star Chronicles, From Legacies to New Frontiers.
Man, that's great.
So
that's great.
You're a legacy.
Great title.
What a better way to start than with a legacy?
Great title for a book one time, and I never did write any of the book, but I had that title.
It's a great title, though.
Great title.
It's a wonderful title. I've got all kinds of book titles. One day I'll get around to writing a book.
You got to do it.
Which, by the way, I understand you just came out with your 60th book?
Well, it's number 59.
59. Okay.
Yeah.
59.
Yeah. Now, since we're on.
Yeah, let's.
We're visible. I'll wave it around a little bit. This is my newest book. It came out less than 2 weeks ago, as a matter of fact.
Miles City.
Miles City is a somewhat overlooked frontier town up in Montana, and it came out about 2 weeks ago, and just in time for some scheduled events. We knew when it was going to be, and we were starting to sweat it a little bit. And sure enough, it came in about 3 days before I had to leave.
Nothing like
got a call.
Close.
We had them shipped. We had about a little over 100 books shipped up to Miles City.
Oh my!
And the lady in charge of the museum knew we were a little worried, and she gave me a call. She said, "I want you to know we got it." Yay! Good.
And I'd be a little worried too.
Oh, we were.
For our listeners, because many of them, might not know you. Many will from people in our area, but you're kind of a little bit of an institution here.
Well, 1970.
Man,
1970.
That's crazy.
I came here for 1 year, incidentally. I was in the middle of I thought I was in the middle of a coaching career. I had been head coach at two what then were small high schools. The Anna Coyotes, man. And then I came over, was bumped up a classification, and was head coach at Wascom.
Oh, wow.
And I was still single in 1970 and was still in my 20s. And I got offered a job over here, and I thought, yeah, let me do that for 1 year and then back to coaching. Well, it's been a long time now.
Since you've been coaching or since you've been here, actually, right?
It's been well over half a century since I've been here.
And you started writing, and then by what year? Was it 2013 were you appointed state historian, or was it 2011?
2012.
Oh, 2012. You're all around it.
You're all around it.
You think I'd have that straight before coming in and starting the podcast with you. And so 2012 to 2016, right? Because I think you served 3 2-year terms.
Well, sort of. Yeah. Anyway, it added up to 6 years.
Okay.
I was appointed to a 2-year term as my 2 predecessors had been.
Gotcha.
And then I was appointed to a second 2-year term, which was unique at that time. And then I got a call, and here's the odd thing about that. There are thousands of board members around the state, college boards, and all manner of things appointed by the state. And if they don't appoint a successor, then the guy that's being succeeded just stays on until a successor comes up. And Governor Perry kind of liked what I was doing.
So the
governor's office called me as my second term was about to end, and they said, "Would you just keep on serving?" And they told me the deal, and I already knew about it. I know you know about it.
Oh yeah,
civics. And so I said, "Sure, I will." And 2 more years passed, so I had a full third term.
Golly.
And so anyway, I loved doing it, and then my successor, there have been 4 of us. My successor works at Texas Tech.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He's in charge of the archives out there, the Southwest Collection, which I've used many times on research. And So he, he's a long way from here. He's 500 miles from here.
Yeah, that's a jaunt.
And as it has turned out,
Yeah.
he's just sort of left East Texas to me.
So you've gotten to continue to do a lot of your stuff.
I continued to do it and never have stopped. And the foundation, which very generously funded my travels, no state money.
That's crazy.
In the Office of State.
You don't even get a paycheck, of my understanding.
No.
It's just an honorary title.
It is indeed. And I retired from the college in 2011, from the classroom, that is. I retired from the classroom in 2011, and I was called by Governor Perry for 2012. And he said, would you serve? Oh, wow. And we had a marvelous ceremony at the governor's office. And the statute that created this office stated that we should be, sworn in and so forth at the governor's office. And he hadn't done it the first couple of times.
So he had just left the office empty.
No, he didn't leave it empty.
Well, not empty,
he
but
just let somebody else swear him in.
Oh,
for
gotcha.
Reasons I'll tell you. In any event, I was the first one who was sworn in the governor's office by the governor, as the statute calls for. And it was wonderful. And then an interesting thing, I was the first person to have a second term.
Yeah.
And I was sworn in right here on this campus.
That's cool.
I was sworn in I believe at the Murphy Payne room downstairs. And we had a really nice crowd. And our state representative swore me in that occasion.
Oh, wow.
That's
cool.
But it had to be concluded for various reasons at Austin. And it was a school afternoon that happened, and it was a very nice crowd. And then I told my family, see you in a couple of days. And I jumped in the car and I drove to Austin, got there about 10 o'clock at night, and was there when a particular meeting was being held the next morning at 9.
Wow.
And they finished the swearing in Austin. It started here and it ended in Austin.
That's a long ceremony, you might say.
Well, it lasted for 4 years, so it had to be long. So I got to do that then, and then I've gotten to continue aspects as a sort of I don't know.
And you just kind of continued to write. And
indeed, yeah.
59 books in total.
Yeah, that's right. This is the 59.
And I understand.
I'm well into number 60 right now.
That's what it was. Okay,
Yeah,
when you and I talked.
Into number 60 right now.
Man.
And so
that's really cool.
So I've continued to do all of that. But I began writing as soon as I got to Panola, because as a football coach, I began writing articles, technical articles, a certain kind of defense, a certain kind of workout thing or something. And I began writing for publication in coaching magazines. There was one called Texas Coach and another one called Scholastic Coach, and they paid. Texas Coach.
So you start, there you go.
And so I had written several published articles and when I came here. And I thought, well, wait a minute, I'm a college history teacher now.
Right.
I need to shift gears and get out of the athletics.
Yeah.
A couple of times, by the way, I had a good idea for an article in coaching, and I wrote a coaching thing, and I said, Bill O'Neill, staff member, Panola College, Panola Junior College we were back then.
That's really funny.
And so I was a staff member on our football coaching squad. We didn't have one, but I was. And that's how I got.
It's got the name in there.
Yeah, but anyway, I began writing my first book during my first semester here in the fall of 70. And it was a booger bear. You've got it right there.
Yeah, I got it. We're going to talk about it here in a little bit.
It took 4 years to write, and I have taken 3 years, once, I believe, and 2 years with some others. But that was the first one that took up, that was the first one I did, and it became a sort of a standard. It has been in print now for, 46 years.
Wow.
University of Oklahoma Press, very reputable, and it really helped me along my way.
Well, can we jump into it?
By all means.
Because, I want to explore more about your life as we go on. But
sure.
I came in and the other night, I got this book.
Yeah.
For our viewers and our listeners, it's the Encyclopedia of Western Gunfighters. Great. I've really enjoyed it.
And here is its predecessor.
Now, what is this?
This is the Encyclopedia of Baseball, 1955. They come out with new editions every few years. And so I was a baseball nut when I was a kid. Absolute nut. Knew everybody's statistics from 1908 and stuff,
Oh, man.
I loved all that stuff.
And so that gave you the idea to write this book.
There are a number of features that are the same. The heart of this book is everybody who had ever played Major League Baseball up until 1955 when this book came out.
Wow.
And I thought, oh, look at what they've got. Why shouldn't there be such a book about gunfighters?
Yeah.
People were in the 50s. Oh, people were really interested. And I maintained that interest and stuff. And so I started writing the thing, and nobody in the publishing world knew me except Texas Company. Nobody in the publishing world knew me. And so I just started putting that book together, and I intended perhaps to have as many as 50 guys in it.
Yeah.
Billy the Kid, Wild Billy.
Yeah. Your big names.
And I found out if I have this guy, well, this guy shot as many people as this guy did. So I had to include it. And so it got up to 100. And then 150, and then 200, and finally there are 255.
I was going to say you got quite a list of gunfighters in here,
and there are all kinds of features that are similar. You've noticed.
Yes, I made some markings because I had a lot of questions I wanted to talk to you about this stuff.
The features out of this book, I thought, hey, people would like to know this too.
So let me ask you this question: just as much as you're fascinated with baseball, it seems like in American culture, especially, a lot of people are fascinated with gunfighters.
Boy,
we have a whole genre of Western movies based on gunfighters. And which I noticed a little bit in the book as I was going through. You kind of critique those a little bit as far as the historicity of those.
And I've done even more with that in programs and stuff as the years have gone on.
Yeah.
I have, I guess I appeal to an audience that is really hooked on this kind of thing.
Well, it's
fascinating. I do address that. Last year, 2 years ago, I was involved in a program at actually about a weekend program at the historic TA Ranch in Wyoming.
Oh, wow.
And I had written a book about the Johnson County War, which is the famous gunfighter event that took place up there. And so I started putting together a thing, and I did a it's flash drive.
A little thumb drive presentation. PowerPoint or something.
It was a PowerPoint presentation, and it took nearly 2 hours to present. You had to be a hardcore fan, but they were.
Oh yeah,
and we went into Western movies from the start. And the emphasis was on the gunfighting thing. And we went on, we did Western movies from the Great Train Robbery, which really kind of started it right at the turn of the last century, and took it all the way up to today. And
so my theory behind Westerners, and this will get us a little bit into your book, but my theory behind Westerners, Western stories and histories and everything, is that there's something in it that we all can kind of relate to.
Yeah, I think so.
And
nothing more than in Texas, because we had far more gunfights in Texas. You may have noticed that.
I did notice that in the book. Yeah.
And part of that is because Texas is just bigger. Yeah. And so there were more frontier towns in Texas. But part of it is because the revolving pistol evolved here in Texas.
I wanted to get into the guns. Yes.
Yeah. And so you've got the hardware, and these guys were gunning each other down like crazy.
And you got the Texas
Rangers.
It's so geographically big. It's so spread out that the law, I mean, it can't keep up with everybody.
And it didn't.
They really didn't.
And there were more blood feuds in Texas, starting with our area right here.
Yeah.
In the early 1840s, the Regulator-Moderator War began, and it was the bloodiest of all blood feuds.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, we were eating those Hatfields and McCoys alive if they'd come to East Texas. 31 men were killed in the regulator moderator war, plus about another 10 or 12 in the aftermath, as it turned out. And nobody else even had. There was a blood feud like that in Arizona, and I believe it was either 25 or 6 were killed. And that's the only one even close to our 30 some odd here in Texas. And so we were the king of the blood feuds. They happened all over the state. And of course, one of the reasons this is so fascinating is because, as I tell audiences a lot and as I write a lot, but I do this in programs as well, there's nothing as dramatic as life and death conflict. And when you wrap up that life and death conflict,
yes,
what's more dramatic than if you're going to live or die?
Oh, man.
You know, okay, if you wrap up that conflict in big hats, high heel boots, revolving pistols, lever action Winchesters.
This reminds me.
Dress it up in that stuff, man, you've got stories that are irresistible.
Okay, so you reminded me of something. It struck me, and I was going to ask you about it anyway, but you just walked right into it. So I'm going to bring it up at the very start of this book. I bookmarked everything.
Good.
You had something that had me.
You got those sticky notes.
I do, and you had something in here that had me laughing. And so I'm going to read it real quick for everyone. It says at the very beginning, you got all these quotes from these gunfighters.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you said, here's one from Dallas Stodmeyer. He said, "I don't believe the bullet was ever molded that will kill me." And you put a little thing below it. He was wrong.
Yeah, that's right. Right in the back of the head.
And then the very next quote, you said, this is Bill Longley. And Bill Longley said, "My first step was disobedience, next whiskey drinking, next carrying pistols, next gambling, and then murder. And I suppose next will be the gallows." And you put a little thing underneath that said, he was right. He got hung.
He got hung down in Giddings. And by the way, an interesting thing about the huge crowd turned out. I mean, this is very entertaining, you know. There were just a few hundred people in that town. There were 2,000 people there, and he's hanging. And the rope slipped.
Oh, my God.
And the gallows opened. He goes all the way to the ground, got clobbered, and he's.
Oh, my gosh.
And so they got him and kind of picked him up and carried him back up and tied the thing off better this time.
And they had to do it again.
And they dropped him again. Now, that's serious double jeopardy.
Oh, my God.
But it happened, and he deserved it. He was a murderer.
Man, so I didn't know that. See, because I hadn't gotten into all of the individual stories just yet.
It's a story, man.
I'm going to be reading that one tonight.
Yeah, Wild Bill Longley.
Oh, my gosh.
Bloody Bill.
Bloody Bill, is that what
people started calling him Wild Bill Longley in the wake of Wild Bill Hickok.
Yes.
However, what they really called him when he was alive was Bloody Bill.
Bloody Bill. Now, you mentioned in here, you have a whole section on the nicknames of these fighters, which I found fascinating.
Got that from the Encyclopedia of Baseball. I thought, hey, that's a good feature. And so I did a gunfighter version.
Well, it is. And in fact, we know, I know we know a lot of gunfighters by their nicknames. In fact, some of them, we don't even know we just don't even pay attention to their real
Billy
names.
the Kid?
Yeah.
That was his real name.
Yeah.
Billy the Kid. People say William Bonney and they're wrong. And so, there's Billy the Kid and, of course, Wild Bill Hickok. His name was James Butler. There's no Bill in it.
That's not as much fun.
Yeah, that's right.
James Butler.
That's right.
Who cares about James Butler?
Yeah, for James Butler.
Well, and I think
I
think that's interesting because nicknames become a part of the characteristic or the persona of these guys. And I think that's one of the reasons why we like Westerners and we like to study these guys is because they are characters.
Oh, yeah. Indeed, yes.
Like their characters come to real life in many respects. And so
the book I'm working on now has to do with that type of violence in Texas from 1861 when the Civil War started. So I get some real war in there.
Yeah.
And the Indians came back during this war because the U.S. Army, who had kept them at bay, had to leave.
Yeah.
And so here's the Indian violence and then the same old gunfighter violence and feuds and all that stuff. And I carried on for 40 years until 1901 when some changes were made in Texas Rangers and such as that.
Yeah.
And so consequently, that's a good 40 years to look at.
Oh man, yeah. And I was wondering,
that's when Bloody Bill Longley got hung.
When he got hung,
he got hung twice.
Well, I was wondering, when I was looking at it, and clearly the gunfighters were post-Civil War, really picked up, and I looked at all the numbers, really picked up in the 1860s, late 1860s, but really began in the 1870s.
70s indeed.
And by the 80s. They're all over the place.
Yeah, that's right.
You see the numbers decline by, in the 1890s, and then there's a few that trail off from that point on. But I was gonna remark and ask, like, what was the reason for that? I mean, there was a spike for about 20 years.
More law enforcement. Even in Texas, more prisons. Yeah. We had one prison in Huntsville.
That was it.
And so during the middle of that period you're talking about, they said, "My God, we got to do something." And they built a second prison over at Rusk. And the prison block is still there, man.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Well, I know before the prison system, it was all county jails. Everything was all county jails in the state of Texas.
And when they hung them in the county.
Right in the county jails. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. There were some county jails that actually had a trap door in the second floor of the cell room.
So I live in Hemphill. And in Hemphill, the old county jail still has that in the second floor. You can go up. You can still go up and look at it. They only ever hung one person there.
Yeah,
but it was built so that.
And they've got the trap door in the second floor.
It's still there.
That's great.
It's still all there.
I didn't know Hemphill had that.
Yeah, no, and it's but that's how everything was done. It was all done in the county jail systems.
Yeah,
and then of course the prison systems were eventually brought on. So it was
they came up with more law enforcement, and that was. Obviously embodied by more jails.
Yeah. Now, but some of these guys were law enforcement. Some of these gunslingers that you have in here.
Some of the toughest gunslingers were, they just went after them. And if they kill them, we don't have to worry about them anymore.
Well, problem solved, right?
That's exactly right.
Well, isn't that
a lot of these guys were incredible fighting men.
So isn't that the kind of with Bonnie and Clyde, for example? Now I realize we're not into gunfighters anymore, bringing them up, but they were murderers, and they traveled when in
our area,
and when they were taken down in right up the road here, when they were taken down, there was no dead or alive. We're just dead. That's it.
Yeah, we're not gone. Good.
We're not trying to take them alive.
Good riddance.
You identify them, we're taking them out.
They're gone.
And so, but I saw that a lot of the gunfighters, some of them were law enforcement, then they drift off and become hired hands some places, and then
I was asked to write a young person's book, a young guy's book about this, and we called it The Great Gunfighters, and it's written for the 8th grade level.
Gotcha.
And so I took 20 guys. And, I've got 255 guys.
Yeah, there's a lot in this book.
So I took 20 guys, the best known, the ones that Billy the Kid and Wild Bill Hickok and people who are well-known white herbs. And the idea was to put either a white hat or a black hat on them.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so when some of them, I had to leave, there were 4 of them in the book that played both sides. They were lawmen, and they were... I wrote a biography about
both sides of the aisle,
Right. But the idea was to show these, and we call them great gunfighters of the Old West.
Yeah.
And, every 20 guys, everybody knew every name. White Earp, Bill Hickok, et cetera, et cetera. And so, it was pretty good. And the odd thing was, we sold that book to older gentlemen, and they said, "This is about the level I read on now." I'd say this is just a very unsophisticated kids level book, and I didn't even include some of the really grisly details.
It serves as a great introduction, though, right?
I guess so.
So here's one of the other things that struck me as I was going through the work about these gunfighters. And I'm going to read the line because
okay, good.
The line gave me a chuckle again, and I read it, and I was just like, what?
I was trying for chuckles here and there.
Well, you got a few of them out of me. I don't know how hard you were trying there, but right here. Okay. So gunfighters, in real gunfights, however, the primary consideration was not speed, but accuracy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gunfighters frequently did not even carry their weapons in holsters. Pistols were shoved in their hip pockets, waistbands, or coat pockets, and a rifle or shotgun was, of course, almost always preferred over a handgun.
Yeah.
And then this is the line that gave me the chuckle. You said the primary concern in a shootout was not hitting the other man first or in the right spot, but just hitting him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
and that's exactly what they tried for. And there was none of this stuff about Hickok did one.
Yeah.
Meeting in the street. No,
yeah.
There was almost none of that in real life.
There's standoffs, none of these,
shoot the guy in the back, whatever.
Yeah, just take him out.
That's exactly right. And so there was none of that. That was a Hollywood invention. And if you'll think about it, the Western movie was getting popular in the early 1900s.
Yeah.
Well, so was baseball. It was our national sport. So was football by then.
Right.
We were getting sports crazy. And so consequently, Hollywood sort of made a sport about it. Who is the fastest draw? Well, who cares who's the fastest draw? If a guy's standing over there and you whip out your gun and fire first and miss, that doesn't do any good.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, the other guy's going to hit you right there. And so that whole fast draw thing, as well as the Buscadero gun rig, which went halfway down your leg and you could draw, you don't see those in old photos. Well, nobody wore those. That was a Hollywood invention, and that gets the gun out faster and all that. But is it going? Are you going to hit the guy?
These guys carried their gun in hand, like you said, with the shotguns, or long barrels. I mean, shotgun seems to me. If I were a gunfight, I'd want the shotgun. It's a lot easier to spread it out there, try to hit your target a little bit easier, and. But Hollywood has really played into the myth of the gunfighter a whole lot.
Very much.
But I think there's an appeal to it.
Again, the fast draw, the athletic contest. Who's the fastest draw?
Well, and Americans, we're with all sports, just as you say. I mean, you're exactly correct. With all sports, there's always who's the GOAT, but greatest of all time, right? So who's the quickest? Who killed the most, which you do have kill counts in here.
Yeah, right.
But again,
did you notice the coaching delegate came in? What are you going to do if a bunch of guys are shooting right over here at two guys?
Yeah.
And so, 5 guys are shooting and the 2 guys die. Well, these guys need an assist. And so, if you noticed in that thing, I did have a thing about assists.
Yes, I saw you had total number of gunfights, total kills, and then you had assist.
That's right.
You don't know. We don't even know.
Don't have any idea
which one killed this guy, but he was hit 4 times.
Yeah, that's right.
And so, and what I noticed is though that especially with Hollywood movies compared to real life or even myth, their kill counts are a lot lower. Then,
if you watch the television series, as many of us did sort of growing up,
right.
Well, Matt Dillon would kill somebody every week. Well, over 20 years, that's a lot of guys.
That's a lot of people.
And it just didn't work that way.
Yeah.
You didn't have.
Well, I saw that some of the, I was looking at some of the stats, and one of the guys that had one of the more famous ones, Jim Miller here.
Oh, Jim Miller.
I mean, he had 12.
Yeah.
And
he was just a murderer.
And compared to
for hire, although he got into some things with other guys occasionally, but most of his kill count came from just gunning guys down. He was murderer for hire
and
killing Jim Miller, Killer Miller. He was also.
Now, I don't want to downplay the number of 12 lives. That's 12 lives.
Yeah,
but when you look at it again, the conception that we have of these gunfighters is, by the time they've lived their life, if they've made it through life, because many of them, as you point out, they don't make it.
Shortened.
They get their lives get shortened.
Lifespans.
By the time, 12 is one of the highest kill counts. And, it's not like the dozens and dozens and dozens that
we had an East Texas gunfighter, John Wesley Hardin, named after the founder of Methodism, John Wesley.
Yeah.
His father was a Methodist circuit rider.
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
And he named him optimistically, as it turned out.
A little too optimistically, I guess.
Yeah. And Wes Hardin was just nuts. And he started killing people when he was a teenager. It was almost like a guy that hit you with a sucker punch.
Yeah.
He wanted to get his gun out first and shoot him, and then none of this fast draw stuff. And he drank and he gambled. He got into these things and he was just nutso. He was, I thought, kind of psychopathic. And he killed all kinds of guys.
Yeah.
And most of them were unfair. And then, interestingly enough, he got captured by a Texas Ranger down in Florida, and the Panhandle of Florida. And so he got captured down there and brought back to Texas. And Bill Longley was very interested in that because he was up for hanging at this time. And so here comes Wes Hardin, and they gave him a long prison sentence. And he said, hey, he killed more guys than I did.
And he got a long
hang me. Well, they went ahead and hung him twice, if you remember. And Hardin spent 17 years in Huntsville. And when he got out, his wife, his long-suffering wife, had died recently. And he married, he was crazy. He was in his 40s by then. He married a teenage girl. Didn't work out. Ended almost immediately. And he started messing around. He went out to El Paso, which was very definitely a gunfighter's town. But the interesting thing about him is he suffered slights out there that when he was 17 years old or something, he would have gunned the guy down. And he didn't do it. And he did do these amazing feats of gun twirling and so forth, and people would come and watch him. They'd love to see the guy handle the guns. But he didn't shoot anybody. He got out of prison in his 40s, and I don't know, something had happened to him, and
something changed.
And he wasn't going around and sucker punching those guys with a 6-gun.
So he did his killings in maybe late teens, early 20s.
Yeah.
Went to prison for 17 years.
Yeah.
And then gets out and basically becomes a performer, from what you're telling me. Almost.
Yeah, people
like to watch him do his tricks.
Yeah. And then he got murdered. He got killed himself.
What do you know? Because I haven't read all of the histories of all of these different guys. Was he killed by someone that
he was killed by a guy named John Selman, who was a law officer himself?
Gotcha. See, that's
also one of those guys that played
both sides.
And he was afraid that Hardin was going to come after one of his sons, who was wearing a badge also. And he's walked into a saloon. Hardin was gambling. And he shot him in the back of the head. Then shot him a couple more times after he fell onto the floor.
Well, and interesting. Got to make sure it's done, I guess.
They're buried in the same graveyard overlooking the interstate out at in El Paso.
Gosh. Have you visited the grave sites of any of these?
What are you talking about? I've got photos of me at the graves.
So that's a thing that my wife and I like to do. When we travel, we like to go to graveyards.
Yeah.
And we like to visit, all of the different graveyards and everything. And, and one of the things that she wants when she passes away, she's told me this, her epitaph, she wants to have on her epitaph how she died.
Oh, really?
And so we've come across a few of those, not many.
Yeah. You
don't see very many people do it, but we've come across, and there's one.
Yeah, gone but not forgotten is more common,
in Hemphill, there is one where I should have taken a picture of it, where it says, "Here lies so-and-so, a Texas Ranger killed by an outlaw."
Yeah.
Something
like that, yes.
And you'll see that every now and again.
Well, the most famous Boot Hill in the West, and there are 2 cemeteries in Tombstone. And I wrote a book about one of the guys who's in the actual cemetery.
Yeah.
And he was a famous law enforcement officer and so forth out there. And yet on the edge of town, now this is slightly removed from town, just a short distance, but on the edge of town is the famous Tombstone Boot Hill. And the best tombstone out there says, Lester Moore. 4 slugs from a 44. No less, no more. Isn't that great?
I love it.
And it's right there at where the Clantons and McLowrys are buried and so forth. It's at the Tombstone. It's at the Boot Hill.
You need to go
more
out there
famous Boot Hill. No, not more famous certainly, but perhaps equally famous among gunfighter aficionados is the Boot Hill at Tascosa, Texas. That's worth seeing. There are only 20 some odd guys, but Tascosa was the gunfighter capital of Texas during the 1880s. There were in this little old bitty town of just a few hundred adobe buildings and stuff. I did a model of it, by the way. That model I did of Tombstone, of Tascosa during its gunfighter period is in the Panhandle Plains Museum.
Oh, cool.
There in the research area. But in any event, there is a Boot Hill just outside town. It is today a boys' ranch. And the courthouse from the 1880s is there, and it serves as a museum. And there is an old school building, a wooden school building. And so there are three things from that period. Again, the rest of them were adobe buildings, and when the roof went, in a few years, it's a piece of mud. But the Boot Hill is just as you approach the town. And it's got all these guys. They had what they called the big fight, and all four guys that were killed in the big fight. Now consider the big fight. Okay, big fight in Tombstone had 3 guys killed.
3 guys, yeah.
And the big fight, as it was called in Tascosa, had 4. So bring on them ERPs and stuff. We'll take care of those guys, And it is a wonder, and it is truly a Boot Hill. It is up on a hill, and wind blows all the time and everything. And it's a great place to visit. And then, as I say, in Tombstone, the most famous Boot Hill is right there on the outskirts of Tombstone as you drive into town. But then a short distance away is the city cemetery, and it's where the more reputable citizens wound up.
Yeah. And
a lot of these Boot Hills, they would have to use dynamite. Now, they were mining towns a lot of times. They'd have dynamite ready, and it would just be pure rock. It'd be about half an inch of topsoil, and then it's pure rock.
So they dug the holes with dynamite. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, they'd have to put a stick of dynamite in there and blast it out and get it into rubble so that they could make a proper grave for the Clantons, McLaury's, whoever.
Golly,
in there.
There's a piece of history I would have.
Oh, it's all over the West.
Would not have known that.
Out in West Texas is so much of that because, again, you have just light topsoil.
Yes.
And then it's rock.
Well, there's no rain out there. That's correct. And I remember the first time that I came down, because I'm a New Yorker, right? And so,
are you? Yes. I never tell from your accent. So, Brian.
When I of course moved out to Texas, I remember driving out to West Texas, and it was an experience for me. I was not used to all of this is flat, constant flat, and more flat.
Some of the older buildings in some of those historic towns were built of rock, and thus they still survive.
Well, some of that stuff out there is
what a log cabin would be. It's not going to survive.
Oh, yeah, the log cabin's gonna it's gonna rot over time and everything, and but it's so dry out west.
Oh,
you know.
Is it really?
Yeah, I don't have to tell you. I know.
A little more humid here.
Well, I'll tell you.
A little greener here than it is out there.
So, quick little story. When I first moved down, there was a couple living in Dallas. I affectionately called them my aunt, my uncle, and they weren't. I just call them that, and. The gentleman, he was like, I called him my Uncle Ron, and he's like, hey, would you come help me move my hunting trailer? And it's out yonder, West Texas, yonder is what he said. Yonder. And I said, sure, how far can yonder be? And I'm in Dallas, and I swear we were in his car 8 hours, and we're still in Texas, which if you're from New York, you travel 8 hours in almost any direction. You've gone 3 states. And so we go out yonder, and I'm like, where in the heck is your hunting trailer? He's like, it's a couple hours yonder that away. And I said, oh my. So we drive on a dirt road now. We come across this house, we pass the house, and there's like one telephone line coming in, and with our electrical power line, we find the trailer, we hook it up. And I said, where are we taking this thing? And I said, don't you dare say yonder. He said, north yonder. And we drove 4 hours north, and then another 8 hours back to Dallas. I swear we were in that car nearly a full day, 24 hours almost. We never left the state.
Yeah.
And it was just, we got out there and it was just all flat, dry.
Yes.
Like it was different, you know.
Sure.
Part of the state that I'm from, rolling hills everywhere, you know.
I've traveled New York State a good bit.
Well, and you've been to
I've only
Cooperstown.
been to New York City. Yeah, I've been to Cooperstown multiple times.
I was born in Cooperstown.
Were you really?
So I was born in Cooperstown.
Well, I did 5 baseball books on the minor leagues. I would go up there every summer.
And we're gonna do that for another podcast, by the way. We are coming back to the baseball books, but you know, since you've been up there, it's all rolling hills.
Yes.
You know, and
by the way, beautiful.
Gorgeous.
I've been to Fort Ticonderoga.
Yeah, I've been there too. Yes, wonderful place.
Yeah,
the history is amazing.
Darn right.
But like the geography is so different.
Yes.
It is just so different.
Yes.
And so like it was a big shock to me to go out there. And I understand, I actually get the concept of coming down and traveling out there of the Western and the idea of the Western town, the Western movie, you know, all of that stuff. It really comes to life when you travel yonder.
That's true.
You know,
That's
like
true.
everything really,
it surely is.
it takes on the character. But I think there's something interesting about the frontier. The idea of the frontier is interesting because I think there's a symbolic part to it, right? And you got the old, but there's also something new and exciting to it that's coming, because you don't know what's coming.
Adventurous. That's why they went out to the frontier.
Yeah.
Those who were not adventurous did not go out there.
And you're
wherever the frontier was at a particular time.
Right. And you're forging the future to a certain extent in that regard, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of a neat concept.
That's true. And they were adventurous, you know, even the urban pioneers, the one who built the towns. And you say, well, a storekeeper or a newspaper guy or something, okay, fine. But wait a minute, he's out there, and the other newspaper guys are back east, and these guys are out in the west, and they were an adventurous lot. The cowboys were. My great-great-grandfather was a cowboy on the Chisholm Trail. Yeah. Great-grandfather, one great, and he was my mother's grandfather. And he rode with a feudist, incidentally, a guy named Pink Higgins, and he did not get involved in the feuds, but at the same time, one trail drive after another, year after year after year. And, you know, he loved all that stuff.
Yeah.
And he had to settle down when all that ended and everything, and he became a farmer and stuff. And it was a dull life after that because he was a cowboy. Real thing.
And, you know, and I wonder, like, when it comes to both the cowboys, to the outlaws, the gunfighters and different, you know, there's a certain sense when you go out into the frontier, you're going to bring along, somebody's going to have to bring along some form of justice. There's always going to be right.
Yeah, that's right.
There's always going to be wrong. And
even if they just have to kill them, you know,
somebody's got to do the dirty job.
That's right.
And
these guys who did, the Texas Rangers, for example, boy, those guys were tough. I mean, you know, and they didn't get harassed by the people at the state capitol.
Well, and it always
doing God's work, justice.
It always reminds me of the old movie, which I know you have seen, The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. It's a John Wayne, Jimmy Stewart movie, and the gunfighter is always he's the outcast. He's always the guy on the outside of town, but he's always the guy that the town needs.
Killer.
He's the killer, but the town always needs him.
Yeah,
which is what's interesting about that movie, right? Correct. Everyone, they ultimately rely upon him to be the guy. Someone's got to just come in
and you bring up an interesting subject, incidentally, when you talk about place and so forth. As a writer, I've always considered it my obligation to go where I write about.
Yeah,
including with those baseball books you mentioned, and I won't get off on that. But of the 5 league histories, well, most of those leagues had 30 or 50 or something franchises over the years.
Right.
And I felt that I had to go to each one and see where the ballparks were. And in many cases, the ballpark still stood. And it's the same way with these guys. You know, where is so-and-so buried?
Right.
Where did that gunfight happen? And so forth. And you got to get the lay of the land. How was he able to do that? You have this vision of ambushed him from behind a tree, and you go out there and there's no trees. And so... And so
a slight problem, right?
Yeah. And so, you know, that is part of the writer's job, but you don't write about these things from long distance. You get yourself out there and you see where it happened. And I felt the same way. Brian, about my teaching.
Yeah.
I felt as a college teacher, I was obligated to visit, in my case, all 50 states, and to visit the most important forts or, whatever the historic site, where did such and such a battle take place, so that I can talk about it with some intelligence to my students.
Mm-hmm.
And I taught Western Civ, and thus I visited, most of the European countries, 30 some odd countries in all, because it was my job as a writer and as a teacher. It was my job to
travel, to see
go
it.
to these places so that I could help make it come alive in the classroom. And that's what I try to do with these books.
Well, let's end there for today. Thank you so much. Just so our listening audience knows, our viewing audience, we're going to be doing several of these. We're going to keep this going.
Outstanding.
I just love all of this stuff, and I want to bring in as much information as we can.
Wonderful.
And pass it on to our viewers, and maybe they'll get something out of it. I
Wonderful.
hope so. Bill, thank you. I appreciate you joining us today.
This is cool. What are you talking about? Great.
We're not stopping.